Right, and we're off. Hello and welcome back to the Cine Skinny. It's the film podcast from the Skinny Magazine, and we're all in a great jubilant mood. And actually everybody's here, which is nice, which is making my mood even better. So it's Ellie.
Hello.
Anahi.
Hello.
Don't put your hand up.
That sounded sarcastic.
Me, never. Jamie, you're also here.
Hiya.
How is everybody?
How are you?
I'm all right.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Great.
We never asked Peter how he is.
Yeah.
know.
It's lonely
Maybe that's
being
why
the
you're
host.
grumpy.
Yeah, it could be.
Maybe this episode we just ask Peter questions.
Yeah.
And just like
Maybe we
three,
just give
three hosts,
Peter a
one.
Make a space for him.
Yeah. That's the one thing that everybody wants. It's more from the straight guy. Right. Anyway, 2 films to talk about today and some other bits and bobs. Jamie's been in Hawick for the Alchemy Film Festival, so he will no doubt talk about that. And he has just promised that I've actually watched loads of films, parentheses, not any of the ones I was supposed to watch for this. And Ellie, I would say, hasn't given me cause to make a direct pointed comment about anything that's been said yet.
I mean, I believe Ellie's watched like one of the classic trilogies of,
That's true,
of cinema.
yes. Are we going to go into what we've been watching?
Well, why don't we just go straight into it? Thank you, Jamie. Excellently teed up. Ellie, out the park.
My partner was a little unwell over the weekend, so we just stayed in and watched all of the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, which were like tremendous fun. I feel like they really are hitting for everything that you'd possibly want out, like a dumb sort of family-friendly action CGI film. Like, there's none of the kind of weird cynicism that like Marvel films or like Star Wars has now. It just is incredibly earnest, like power of friendship, butt rock stuff going on, and it's full of incredibly talented voice actors like Ben Schwartz, who I've talked about on the pod before, that I really, really like, who voices Sonic, and he really, really commits and kind of like makes the character his own in a way that I was literally slagging him off compared to Chris Pratt earlier on today, who voices Mario in a very boring way. And Idris Elba is Knuckles in the second one. Keanu Reeves is Shadow the Hedgehog in the third one. And throughout all of them, Jim Carrey is the bad guy, Dr. Robotnik, who is like the only kind of recurring live action character. But he's just like giving so much. It's like peak 90s Jim Carrey. Like, I can't think of anything else that he's been in as recently where you really just feel like he is doing the Jim Carrey thing really, really well.
He plays him a bit fash, does he not? In the first one.
Sure, yeah, he is a bit fash in the first one. He's meant to be a bad guy. He's meant to be like this guy who creates like armies of robots or whatever, but he's just incredibly zany with it. And then as the film goes on, he looks more and more like the character from the games, where he like shaves his head and gets like this weird red flight jacket, but he always has the big doofy mustache. And he also plays an older version of himself in the third one, and they do like this double act. It's a lot of fun. It's just like dumb fun. It's what like big blockbusters should be now.
I mean, that's what Sonic the Hedgehog is. Got to go fast.
Exactly.
And so on and so forth.
Rings, yeah, lots of that stuff.
Do they do it? Get into the gameplay. Is there a lot of like spinning on the spot and like going up?
Yeah, like
roller coasters?
I'm not super familiar with the games. Like, I kind of like know the sort of icons of it because I just think the games seem designed so well that they stick in your head. But like, yeah, it is a point that he kind of like turns into a little ball and rolls around really, really fast and then speeds up and like bursts electricity everywhere. And then Shadow the Hedgehog is like the really edgy version of him who like drives a motorcycle and shoots guns. I love him so much.
And interesting as like a follow-on from talking about video games last time, and one of the films that we're going to talk about this time is very video game coded, I would say. Brackets, unclear whether positive or negative at this stage.
Yeah, you're talking about the documentary, right?
I'm talking
Queer
about the Malaysian queer punk documentary, not the other film. Anahi, you said you've watched lots of films.
Yeah.
Time to come good on that promise.
Okay,
What have you been watching?
I'll give you the list. I watched Akira in the cinema for the first time. I thought it was very good, very kooky, very violent. I had like weird body horror dreams like that night, like weird little nightmares.
What did you have snacks-wise? This was a plot point on the last episode of the podcast. Jamie went and saw Akira at the IMAX and had his very first Tango Ice Blast.
Yes, actually, I remember you talking about that. I think I brought Haribo, which was like fine.
Which type? I mean,
like the normal one.
like the star.
Yeah,
with
the
like
Star
hearts
Mix.
in the cola bottles.
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
like
exactly.
That,
Yeah. Because I always get that or the Tangfastic ones, but I had those in my bag. So yeah, I had that. Why was this? This was just because you had it for the first time.
That was just. I don't think I really spoke about the film more, but my snack experience.
It was Jamie's anecdote was that he had a Tango Ice Blast for the first time, and as soon as he said this, me and Ellie were like, "This is podcasting. This is 3 minutes of material." And sure enough, we delivered.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say I found the film more memorable than the half pack of Haribo I had in my bag, which is probably I wouldn't say that about all films.
That's as good of a write-up as you can.
Yeah, as you can get
hope for,
these days. Yeah. So I watched that. That was really good. I saw Mother Mary twice in a row, like within like 2 days of each other, because I just could not figure out what I thought of it the first time. It was so weird. And then I went back the second time and I was like, yeah, I fucking love this. So it was like really good. Have you guys seen it yet?
I've not seen it yet.
No. This is Anne Hathaway and Michaela Cole with new original music by FKA Twigs and Anne Hathaway.
Yes, and Charlie XCX and Jack Antonoff.
Nice.
Yeah, the holy trifecta of people being what the kids listen to
The
these
holy
days.
trifecta of people.
People that ever existed. I thought it was really, really cool. I hadn't seen a film that was that weird in a really long time. Like, it's very stagey at times, like really, really mannered, quite like Brechtian, as in, like, it really distances you from it quite a lot. Like, I couldn't, especially Michaela Cole's performance is so bizarre that I was like, is this actually just a bad film? Like, and I actually think it's really interesting for a film to be brave enough
speaking
to
like
do
couplets
that.
or something, they have like some sort of, is it not some sort of weird way they talk as well? Or maybe I've misread.
Yeah, it's like very mannered, like very almost like theatrical.
Okay.
And then, the writing is very poetic. Everyone's like monologuing. It feels like a play in a lot of ways, but then it has these like really incredible visuals. Yeah, I thought it was really cool, like really, really cool. And then I continued my Anne Hathaway streak with The Devil Wears Prada 2, which was fine. Lighting in films got a lot worse in the last 20 years. Really sad. But she is still really hot. And the clothes were really cool. So I really liked that. And then I rewatched AI, the Steven Spielberg film, because I saw online that apparently it was originally like not produced, but was in the works by Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, it was a Kubrick thing, yeah.
I did not realize that, but you can really see it actually once you know. Fucked up film. Really fucked up film. Like really upsetting.
I don't really remember much about it. It's been so long since I've seen it. I remember he eats spinach and it goes wrong.
Yes,
The space kind of-
I hadn't seen it since I was a child, like maybe like 9 or 10, and I cannot believe my parents showed it to me.
I mean, let's face it, we're going to be actually doing this in a few years. You're going to like take a robot home that's got AI and you're going to be dumping it in the woods because it's freaking you out. This is going to be our
It's
lives.
so horrible though that she does that.
I know.
Like to her child.
And then
It's so fucked up.
I reckon I would
Jude Law's
put an
the-
Alexa over my fence.
so you're going to
But would you boot an Alexa that you'd said like keywords to so that Alexa would love you forever and ever?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just wouldn't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
what about your
Classic bit of disagreeing with a hypothetical. Actually, I'm built different. Much like this Alexa that's going over this fence.
What about your Jude Law sex doll? Are you going to send it to like a flesh
No,
farm?
I'm keeping that. Yeah.
Anyway, I had a nice time with that. And that's all I've been watching.
Nice. Well, we'll go from the futuristic artificial intelligence to Hoik in the borders. Jamie,
Yeah,
tell me about the Alchemy. Wait for it. Tell me about the Alchemy Film Festival.
The Alchemy Film Festival is great. I go most years. It's a lovely little weekend of experimental film and artist move image and cool exhibitions and just a fun vibe. So I saw a lot of things.
Sorry, just not to be difficult. Can you move your microphone slightly farther away from your face?
Further away.
A little bit farther back towards you.
Okay. How far?
I think
Okay.
about that far.
Okay, there.
Well, give that a go and we'll see how we work out.
Right. Should I start again?
You just I think you could continue.
Okay.
This is all gold.
Fucking
What
hell.
was I saying? So I was at Hoik. I'll pick out a few things that I really liked. Well, like I say, there's lots of exhibitions. My favourite exhibition was Stomach, Thighs and Ass, which was by a Canadian artist called Matthew Lancet. And it's like a 4-channel exhibition in a dark room. And it's basically 360 exhibition. And on screen on the 4 channels is him injecting himself with insulin because he's got type 1 diabetes or he's getting his blood readings or whatever. And you just see him doing this, and sometimes he's doing it in like the bathroom or the bedroom, like private places. Sometimes he's just doing it like at the fun fair or in front of the Eiffel Tower or in Venice, and it's like gives you the idea of like what it's like to have a kind of chronic disease that's totally in your life. So it gives you the idea that it's a constant thing that you can't get away from, but also it's completely normal. And then on the soundtrack, he's like reading out all these numbers, and then you realise towards the end these are kind of like the blood. What do you call it? Blood sort of
blood
sugar,
blood glucose
readings. Yes. So like 190, 95, like whatever. So like really great immersive exhibition. Like I really recommend that one. Other highlights were, there was a really cool thing they did called Play It Forward. So like Alchemy, they started restoring old archive that they found around Hawick. So like old kind of amateur groups and clubs have made these little films or little documentaries, and they've been restoring them on 60mm. But what they did is they copied one of the 60mm and sort of basically gave it to all the guests of Alchemy. So they left out all the 60mm on these sort of benches, and like throughout the festival you could just wander in and then mess around with it. So like they had like scalpels and like dyes and paints and stuff, so you could paint on straight onto the like animate the celluloid basically and scratch out faces and like change things, and you could like dig into it and like tear it apart. And then what happened at the end of the festival, they showed it. So like they've got this old archive of like the common riding, like all these old boys like dressed in horses, but then it's got this kind of weird kind of witchy effect on it, because all the people at Alchemy all weekend have been like drawing shit on it and like
have been going full Stalin mode
exactly
on the Hawick archive.
And
like, look at all these people's faces that have just been deleted permanently.
But it's good. It's kind of like reactivating this stuff that probably isn't even that interesting, but like they've brought it back for more kind of like for the town, but then actually they've created quite a cool artwork about it. And it was just fun how like everybody had a different sort of method. Some people were actually quite like lots of like actually artists there who know what they're doing with like 60mm, could actually paint the landscape and actually made it look really cool. And then there's just a bunch of kids who like were drawing like stars and like spraying stuff everywhere. So like it was a real mix of stuff. Really cool. And then from the kind of film stuff, I really liked Malik Amalia, his program. They showed 4 of his films. They're a lot of his films kind of basically take archive of like American myth and kind of mix together. So my favourite of his was he did a sort of film on incarceration, and he took like a load of archive from SeaWorld, like the orca, is it Shamu? I can't remember. Mixed it with like loads of archive from prisons and like documentaries about Alcatraz and stuff. It was kind of amazing. He also had an amazing film that he made about, it's called Leather Graveyards, and it's where he took close-ups of like lots of graveyards, but like picked out words like gay power and butt plug and like leather daddy, and just and then mixed it with like just basically hot people making out. So it was good stuff.
That sounds so good.
I enjoyed it.
See, and people say that experimental film's no fun. Just go through watching all these people making out while it just says butt plug over and over again, and celebrate the end of the weekend by destroying some of Hawick's historic archive.
Exactly. It was wonderful. Yeah, really nice weekend.
I went to a workshop like that, I think, at Embassy last year. They called it cameraless filmmaking, and it's when you take film and just do like physically alter the film in some way, and then you can run it through like a
projector.
Thank you. That. And then it like creates a new like art piece, and it was really, really cool. And they had like this book on, I think it was an exhibition that happened in Germany maybe, called like Celluloid, and it was about like all these artists that's the whole medium. They just like take film and just fuck around with it.
Yeah, there was
really cool.
There was a really cool film I saw. It was like exact same thing. This film didn't have anything on it. It was just unexposed celluloid. But it was like a Chinese filmmaker, and she had put on the chemicals that the Chinese government had suggested you use to clean your house, like during the COVID pandemic. But like used it on the celluloid to show that actually this is really dangerous, and it like would destroy the celluloid. Then it became like, it looked like blood and veins and stuff. It was really cool.
That's sick.
So I love that stuff.
Nice. That sounds lovely. And any new, I know that every time we always because we're a bit snide. We always make fun of you because every time you come back from hike, you seem to have found some new culinary innovation that's going on in the borders. But I think you said that didn't happen this time. It was
I don't think I had anything new, but I did have some nice food.
You didn't discover halloumi?
I didn't discover halloumi. No.
That's sad.
I think maybe I've discovered all the food now. Maybe I've reached full adulthood. I don't have to like discover new cheeses.
It was only a capper for this segment that I wanted, and I've got it one way or another. Right, first film of the week, Normal. A new sheriff turns up in a quiet but suspiciously wealthy Minnesota town and finds, among other things, that the place is being used as some kind of giant living piggy bank for the Japanese mafia, or Yakuza. And then once this is discovered, it all gets a bit chaotic, runny, jumpy, shouty, bang bang time. Ben Wheatley, famed slightly experimental British director Ben Wheatley, slightly incongruously directs this from a script by Derek Kolstad, who's one of the kind of creators of John Wick, and Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul. Bob and Derek both worked together on Nobody and Nobody 2, which should have been called Nobody Else, but whatever, you know. So yeah, Bob Odenkirk stars as Ulysses, the sheriff, with who I believe doesn't have a surname, just Ulysses. So there you go.
Just like Cher.
Just like Cher, or like original Ronaldo. Not like Cristiano Ronaldo, R9, through on goal. Anyway, sports. Annie, you look confused. It's sports.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, Bob Odenkirk, Lena Headey from Game of Thrones, Henry Winkler, The Fonz, and various other people are in this film, which is, Jamie, kind of an odd one. Now, you said, when we were talking about this end of last week, you said, this film's really well reviewed, 90% or something on Rotten Tomatoes, but I don't think it's very good. Those were your words. And then you were worried that you might be wrong. But why don't you tell us what you thought first, and then me and Ellie will probably confirm some of your sentiments.
I was worried. I says I could be wrong because what
What a distinction.
Essentially, what I felt was
that everybody likes from a journalist and a podcaster is indecision, and trying to walk back the softest comment.
I was convinced in myself that it was bad, but I recognise that other people have different tastes. Some people have bad taste. Have you met people? So, I thought I'd give you a chance to see it as well.
He's walked back, but in a way that he's kind of like slingshot, like a wrestler. Like he's walked back, but to bounce off the ropes and then clothesline the general public. Anyway.
Well, I mean, why I watched this was actually, it looked quite cool. Like, I'm enjoying Bob Odenkirk's career trajectory. He started off as like one of these comedians that just turned up in like 90 sitcoms, and he did sketch shows and stuff. I think he was at SNL, wasn't he, as well, for a while?
He might have been. He did Mr. Show with David Cross.
Yeah.
And then he was obviously involved in he did Better Call Saul. He was in Arrested Development as well, Bob Odenkirk? He might have had a bit part.
He was definitely in Seinfeld and stuff like that.
Yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
How I Met Your Mother for a while.
Yeah, he just turns up and stuff. But yeah, now then he became like a proper dramatic actor, winning like awards and stuff for Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. And now he's like a Liam Neeson style action man, which I'm here for. It sounds pretty cool. I actually haven't seen Nobody. And maybe if I had, I wouldn't watch this because I thought this was bad. It's like it's got the kind of like outline of a film, like it's like it feels like a film, but it's like so shoddily put together. I was also interested by Ben Wheatley. Like Ben Wheatley, again, another really interesting career. Like you say, was making these kind of like quite weird occult horror films in the UK, and then he's just become like a director for hire, making things like The Meg 2 and this. So like it's a film of two halves. It's like a classic kind of like new sheriff in town meeting the oddballs. The town itself is like has a kind of a Fargo vibe because it's in Minnesota, and everybody's like kind of sweet, but actually it turns out this town that seems normal, guess what, isn't very normal. And like you say, they're all gun nuts who work for the Yakuza. So I thought is this going to be like a kind of like a commentary on middle America and like kind of Trump land where like all these nice people who think they're nice are obsessed with guns, and it is a little bit like that, but then it just becomes like a daft action movie, which I enjoy. Like who amongst us doesn't love seeing people's heads explode and like crazy shootouts. But I don't know, there's just something about the thing that felt really laboured and felt really forced, and there was just lots of really bad one-liners that just... I don't think the film knew whether it wanted to be a really serious film about like a cop who's got trauma or a daft B-movie action film, and it kind of doesn't really satisfy us either, because that's basically the two halves of the film. Yeah, it just felt, it's got like lots of bad like ADR. It's got a
voiceover that I would be genuinely stunned if it was in the original script.
Yeah, the voiceover's terrible. Just explaining the plot, which is like obvious, like it's not a difficult plot to understand.
A big chunk of the voiceover takes the premise that it's Bob Odenkirk's character leaving a voicemail for his estranged wife. And I tell you what, if that was one voicemail, that's a fucking long voicemail. He's talking continuously for about 9 minutes. I'm like,
yeah, just sort of reminding her of the divorce.
Yeah,
reintroducing
and
himself.
All of the various elements that have led to that.
So yeah, I there is enjoyable moments in this for sure, but as a whole, it just feels like really kind of like shabbily put together. Like essentially, I think Bob Odenkirk just wanted to make another action film and like threw some ideas that he saw from other better films together.
Well, I believe, and I'm going to double check this while I turn to Ellie. I believe that this film was actually written before they did Nobody, which turned out to be a big hit, and then they kind of have come back to this at a later date. Me and you were talking about this earlier, Ellie, and we said that it's a little bit like the filmic equivalent of like cheap bacon, in that when you have it beforehand, it looks like it's one size, and then as soon as it comes into contact with the pan, all of the water and the sort of like tertiary stuff just goes out of it, and you realize you're not left with that much. This is a film that is like 50 minutes of film bulked out to an hour and a half and just barely getting there. But I don't want to spoil all your fun, so you can also have a go at this.
Completely agree. Like, there's not a lot of substance there at all, but it is kind of, you're right, Jamie, it's this sort of, these two ideas of like, is it trying to be a sort of small town mystery that has like social commentary and character building and symbolism, or is it trying to be like a fun movie where a guy blows people up and everyone goes boom and that's it? And it really does not reconcile these two words. I would say that they're almost like, I think that the halfway point is when the shooting starts, and all of the stuff beforehand is just kind of like not as relevant or like doesn't really satisfy at all. The mystery's really, really meh. The guy who wrote it, this guy who wrote John Wick, doesn't bring the kind of like, I don't know, interesting, campy, indulgent world of John Wick that he does. Like, you know, John Wick is like a global secret society of assassins who all hang out in hotels. Like, it's so ridiculous and over the top, but it suits it really well for what's just going to be a film about like people shooting at each other. Whereas this is like trying to almost make a commentary about, you know, the impact that conglomerates have had on small town life, and it's almost trying to suggest that the bad guys are just desperate people. Like, you know, it gives them a strange sort of realistic explanation for their motivation, that they're just sort of like at the end of their tether, but at the same time they are like explicitly evil and really, really over the top, which makes it fun for us to blow them up. Like, it's trying to have its cake and eat it too. And there's even a point where like there's a moose that keeps showing up that like clearly like the camera just keeps showing us the moose and giving it as if it has some kind of attention. I think the Fonz says out loud that in Native American mythology, the moose symbolizes endurance. Now, I don't know if that's true, but there is no other sort of idea in the film that communicates that. The moose just shows up at all times, whenever, doesn't really do anything, shows up before, during, and after the fight. It just doesn't, like, it just sort of like seems like a cool thing. Same with the mystery. Like, Bob Odenkirk appears in this small, sleepy town, and he has no reason to be suspicious that anything's going on, but we as the audience do, because the camera keeps zooming in on these little details that are obviously meant to be clues to something. So it's like I think that there is like a real desire to kind of build tension that simply doesn't exist in the script. The best example that I can think of is that the very first scene, it's all these like Yakuza guys sort of like trucked out before their like big scary boss, and he's like, you've disappointed me, you know what you have to do. And then we watch in that first scene as like a bunch of dudes begin chopping their own pinky fingers off, and it's like, this is an interesting scene, right? What's interesting about this is that you're sitting here thinking, wow, if these guys are willing to chop their own fingers off, then it must mean that the boss will do something way worse to them if they refuse. And then almost as soon as you think that, within 3 seconds, one dude refuses and gets his head chopped off very cleanly, finishes the scene, and it's like not worth applying your imagination or letting tension build in any way. It just is sort of telling you, as we've said with that annoying voiceover, what is happening. In terms of like when we get to the actual action and blowing people up, I would say it's pretty well directed, and there's lots of like fun campy deaths. It's just a shame that that's only about 40 minutes long, and you've had to wait through like quite a slog of a like very poorly told mystery just to get here. You sort of compared it to Hot Fuzz, which I would say it is, not just in its like the sort of surrealism and humor of a small town that turns to violence, but then also like the quite grotesque cartoonishness of the deaths. But Hot Fuzz is like really, really good. The kind of suspense is woven in right at the beginning. The humor is really consistent throughout. And yeah, I don't know, like maybe if you really love big kabooms, you will forget how much of a bumpy ride it was to get there in the first place. But I don't know. I found it like quite hilariously bad.
I'm going to read you from the Hollywood Reporter. Bob Odenkirk said, "We obviously don't want to give anything away, but the first thing I said to Derek, his co-writer, was, 'This has an M. Night Shyamalan kind of level of suspense and mystery.'" No, it doesn't. And then Derek Kolstad in the same interview said, "If I were to describe Normal, I'd say it was a love letter to Hitchcock and the British crime thrillers I grew up with as a kid. It has more of the grounded elements of films from the 1970s. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's just not a very good... It's partially competently put together example of a not particularly impressive go of this type of film, which is there's literally a new sheriff in town, and he's going to clean things up just as soon as he works out which things he needs to clean up and meets a number of the lead characters. One of the things that when me and Sally were watching it, she was like, this is like watching someone play a not very good computer game. Like, so much of the dialogue and the structure is like, go to location and meet person, and you walk in and the guy's like, "Oh, I'm just sweeping up the bar because I'm John, the bartender. Hello." And then it pops up on screen, John the bartender unlocked. It's like, there was definitely a couple of bits where it's like, they go into this like bar, and he says, "Oh, and you've got all these guns on the wall. Are they loaded?" And the guy's like, "Wouldn't be much fun if they weren't." And I'm like, come on, just don't, why even ask? Why?
Yeah.
Like,
Chekhov's spinning in his grave.
Exactly.
Chekhov's many, many guns.
Yeah, one gun would be obvious, but dozens of guns? I'm not sure about that.
The ending is so funny to me because there's obviously like Bob Odenkirk plays quite this like haggard, broken down character that kind of is obviously running from his troubles, and that's what brings him to this town in the middle of nowhere called Normal. And then we see in the epilogue after the big shootout that he's like better now, he's like healed or whatever, and they never explain why. They don't explain what it is about like escaping death and having a huge shootout with everybody in this town that seems to fix his marriage.
Yeah,
maybe that's the key.
Maybe it is.
What the marriage counsellors have been
I think
missing.
it kills you would be a bit happier, to be honest. Sometimes I think destroy an entire town.
Yeah, watching someone who, for spoiler reasons, shall remain nameless, be just obliterated with a grenade launcher would cheer anybody up. Fucking yeah.
One thing I will say, I did appreciate how the kind of special effects were kind of like quite cheesy B-movie style. Like, I feel like I wasn't too annoyed by like too much CGI. I feel like a lot of it was like the exploding heads were probably like a pumpkin that was like dressed up as actor.
I think in its defense, this film has some quite competent action, and there's a segment of it that is very good and quite well paced. But to get to that point, it's like because also it's this weird thing of like, they think I wonder whether the script that they had initially was more of a mystery. But as soon as you show the Yakuza in the opening scene of the film, you know that they're involved.
Yeah.
So like, what's then the mystery? It's like, it's only a mystery if you don't have like object permanence, if you can't remember what just happened.
I think it's like fumbled.
It's a mystery if you're not paying attention.
They're very aware of how boring the film is, so they need to introduce start the film on this incredibly gratuitous scene where someone tries to chop a Yakuza's guy's heads off, because they notice that you actually then have to wait 40 minutes of a not very good Fargo-like mystery before any violence happens, which is the only reason that anybody is actually watching this film.
Yeah. And to hear Bob Odenkirk's sparkling voiceover. I was also not a massive fan of this one. Jamie, out of 5, how many? I mean, you've already put this on the record in the magazine.
Yeah, I gave it 2 in the magazine. I'll stick with 2. It does have some fun moments, I will admit, but it's a bit of a slog.
Yeah. Ellie?
Also a 2.
Yeah, I think a 2 as well. Like, it's not good.
It's not good.
I'm so glad I skipped this. Can I just say? Fucking hell.
It's the kind of thing, certainly, if you're going to watch it, have like at least 2 beers.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's maybe
2 beers, 2 stars.
Yeah. Have at least a couple of beers, and if you were to turn up 10 minutes late, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Let's get this down to a lean 70 minutes. So that was normal. If any of that is taking your fancy, it's out next Friday.
They're going to be flocking.
Okay, second film of the week is Queer as Punk. This is a documentary by Malaysian filmmaker Yuen Chen. It follows a queer Malaysian punk band, Diam, and their lead vocalist, Faris, who is a trans man in modern Malaysia. The film kind of follows the band through various kind of projects they're working on and kind of phases they're going through professionally and personally as things sort of like change and then arguably change back again in Malaysian culture and politics. So an interesting premise for a documentary. Mm-hmm. Always nice to see comparatively small bands that you've never heard of get the documentary treatment. But not Ellie, Annie. Looking straight at Annie. Straight at Annie. Ellie, sorry,
yes.
Shit. Annie, what did you think of Queer as Punk?
I think this is a film kind of 2 halves. There is the subject matter of it that is really, really interesting. I knew really nothing about Malaysia, actually. I was realizing there's like so many gaps in my knowledge about like how its government is run, what is legal, what is not legal there. And that is like a really interesting context, that sort of broader state context. Then you have this like very small indie punk band within this very marginalized community. Faris is like so fucking cool, the lead guy. But then also you have his bandmates, which I feel aren't really given as much space as they should be, but they're also like really, really cool. And you have all of these like little insights into their intimate life that is like filmed in this really lovely way. So I think as a kind of subject matter, it's incredible, and it's worth seeing just to be like, oh, cool, this band exists, these people exist. Look at the work that's being done within sort of like queer activism in this completely different context. I think that is all really rich and rewarding. I found it as a film, like as a capital F film, not that interesting, to be honest. It has a very like the truest sense of the word documentary approach in that it is literally just documenting. Like there are so many scenes where it just feels like this quite chronological, and they had the cameras on them, I think, for several years, but this accumulation of footage that they filmed that is then presented in a condensed format. And I'm sure obviously there is a lot more to it than that, but how it then comes across is, yeah, there's not a lot of narrative, there's not a lot of argument, there's an almost passivity to the filmmaking in that it is just observing and showing what is there, as opposed to really having any sort of like argument. I think if you're gonna make a film about a punk band, your filmmaking should be a bit punk as well. And it was just formally quite middle of the road, and that's not necessarily a bad, like it was a very easy film to watch. Like it doesn't ever rub you up the wrong way. It's not particularly challenging in a sort of like narrative way at all. And so it's, none of that is necessarily like a quote unquote bad thing in that the film is very watchable. But yeah, I was a little bit left like flat. I kind of wanted maybe a bit more from it. But there are these like really lovely moments. They like follow Faris at one point getting top surgery. That's like really lovely. And his relationship with his partner is really, yeah, they kind of, there's something just like quite sweet about the way that they're filmed, like just holding hands on the sofa and these like glimpses that you get of people's everyday lives, and that being a form of resistance, I suppose, to the kind of like state violence and oppression that they're facing. There's a really lovely bit, actually. My favorite bit of it was when they get stopped by, I think, like a police person during the pandemic who asks for the filming, like, permissions or whatever. And then the police person is just having a chat with the guy and being like, like, what does that mean that you're trans? And like, oh, okay, so, oh, is this your girlfriend? Oh, and it was just like quite, I don't know, like it was just kind of cute.
I'm confused by that scene, because was it a recreation? Because it was being filmed and then it felt like that the cop was acting. I wasn't too sure if there were...
Oh, I thought it was real, but maybe not.
I was still a little bit confused, because there was something a little bit off about it, because they were surrounded by a camera crew.
They were surrounded by a camera crew. I thought that they were filming just them being stopped, because the cop wasn't like super hostile. I think he was just like checking. So I assumed it was real, but maybe if it wasn't, yeah, that makes it.
But it was a kind of fun. But I felt like that was like one of the formerly interesting things, because it felt like
There was
the
something
documentary filmmaker was filming.
Yes,
yeah,
there was something metatextual about it, and then also tapping into this idea of, what do people, like everyday people in Malaysia, think about this thing. And as I think for a lot of queer identity, that idea that they don't actually have a fucking clue, but that there wasn't anything necessarily super violent or hostile in how he was talking. It was just like ignorant, but also like this openness. I don't know. I just thought there was something a little bit heartwarming about that. So yeah, I would say it's worth watching. The band is cool. Their songs are really funny. Like, I had a nice time. It's a gorgeous 88 minutes long. But yeah, it wasn't like, wow, this is a documentary. What an amazing thing we've done with the genre.
Mm-hmm. We've kind of talked about that on the show before, about like how to appraise like a documentarian's work, like what is the documentarian doing here, and it's kind of difficult to parse that when they just have a cool subject matter that you are engaged with and want to learn more about. But like there is this, I think you're right, kind of this sense that there's not a cohesive argument that's being made, and it sort of feels like there's a lot of potential for narrative that's not really jumped on. Like, I think that the filmmaker can't really decide whether or not we're supposed to be following the band or just supposed to be following Faris, because they're obviously like very closely entwined, but it's mostly Faris that we stay with because he's just so dynamic and he can explain the politics of like the Malaysian legal system really well, and he can also he seems deeply integrated in the queer community, but also he is like prepared to share like the very personal aspects of his own story, which maybe not everybody else is. The rest of the band create like this real sense of like fun, like they just seem like fun people to be there and hang out with, and I think that can tie in with like, at least like my experience watching it as someone from like, you know, a Western English speaking country that also like tries to uplift these sort of small random bands that don't get a lot of love. I think that there's like something kind of revelatory about how punk is sort of the same all over the world, no matter what decade. Like, I think they even say at one point, like, oh, we just started this for fun. And then we kind of like inadvertently got to a message because of the things that we all have in common with each other. And I think that's very true of punk music. They never sort of have any money, but you do get to see their performances and kind of what they mean to their fans. And it's almost like the fun of like finding a band that in your own like local scene that you get to watch and see as they grow and see where they go with that. But then the film does kind of like shift a little bit. The fun kind of dissipates as the pandemic hits and like anti-trans legislation in Malaysia gets a lot more restrictive. And I found that there was these really interesting contrasts. Early on in the film, the band all travel to Northern Ireland to celebrate like a queer wedding there, and it's like a very joyful and unifying thing. But then the film more ends with an acknowledgement of the fact that loads of people are leaving Malaysia out of necessity, what they call the pink exodus, like the requirement for queer people to like abandon their homeland. And it's like that kind of like shift, but then at the same time, you're right, like Faris sort of starts the documentary sleeping out of his car, but by the end of it, he's getting top surgery, which is this very like euphoric thing. So there are these kind of like contrasts, and there almost is this kind of like shift that occurs in the multiple narratives that it might be telling, but it doesn't like give a strong sense that any of this was within the kind of documentarian's eye. It does just sort of end. And I think that there is something realistic about that like this is an incredibly complex issue. It's similar in our own country where like things are just currently getting slightly worse in the law for trans people right now, but at the same time, like there's no known end to that. It's not super clear where it's going, and everyone just sort of has to keep getting on with their own personal triumphs even against that. But again, that's not really like, that doesn't feel like it's part of the actual conclusion of the documentary. So it feels a little confused in the narrative that it's trying to tell. But at the same time, the people are just so interesting and the experience is still really enjoyable.
Yeah. Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree with everyone. I think I was braced a little bit for a more lively film because it does open with like a gig. And I think, oh, is this going to be like a really cool music documentary? Essentially, I didn't quite know exactly what I was in for. But yeah, it does become this more kind of meditative, quite slow, observant documentary, And a lot of it is just like, even just Faris just sitting around at home making bread or, like you say, hanging out with his partner or watching TV. And I suspect maybe the filmmaker's plan is like, oh, well, let's just immerse you in the daily lives of someone and show how like just living is like a part of bit of resistance, the fact that you are just being yourself and your true person in a country where you have like fatwas against gay marriage or sex changes and stuff. So like that was interesting, and it does. I think it's like a great kind of bookend. So it opens with Faris and the band doing a punk song, and Faris takes off his top and he's like strapped down because he's got like I don't know what you call it, like a
binder.
A binder, yeah. And then he makes comment about that to the audience, but then at the end, because he's had his top surgery, he takes off his top and he's like free, and it's like a feeling that he is like moving forward, but he's also the only member of the band who's still there, so it's also kind of bittersweet because the other band members, well, one has had a baby and seems to have left the band, and the other one has left the country because they're sick of like fighting, essentially want some peace, and I think move to the UK. So yeah, it's a bittersweet. I mean, Faris is like, seems like they're going to stay in Malaysia and they're going to like just fight it out, and whatever government stands in their way, they're going to be their own person, which is very inspiring, but it's also kind of like depressing that his extended family, his kind of like or his found family, a lot of them are having to leave. So yeah, I kind of left the documentary a bit down, to be honest, even though it has this kind of like great bookend. I feel like it's like, as a filmmaker, is maybe a journalist first, filmmaker second. Like I think it was more about like following the details of everyday life in Malaysia rather than sort of like Annie says, making a kind of great comment or using the camera and the visuals in an interesting way to tell the story.
Yeah, I think it is one of those ones where like interesting story, probably at least another film in there that is, like say, maybe more experimental or more like punk, quote unquote. But I mean, yeah, I think it's definitely got something to it, and it's good to see these kind of stories being put on screen. There's also something very good about knowing that that in every music scene there is a punk band where only the lead songwriter remains and all the other people in the band are just a rotating cast of background characters in that person's life. Truly, le plus ça change. So this is out on the 15th. There is a preview screening that has like an intro and a pre-recorded Q&A that is screening at Filmhouse on Wednesday the 13th as part of, I think it's like a collab between Squiff and Cinetopia. Is it Cinetopia, who have like a monthly documentary strand?
I believe so.
So if that's accurate, well, almost all of that is definitely accurate, and we think we got the last part right as well. So yeah, it's on at the Filmhouse on the 13th with like an intro and Q&A, and it is in cinemas from the 15th. Out of 5, Ellie.
I would say like 3.5.
Good stuff.
3.
Yeah, probably 3.
Cool. So it's a 3 from us. Queer as Punk. It is good though.
It is good.
Yeah. So 3's good. We're bringing back the 3 is good discourse just in time for the festive season.
Exactly.
Did anybody see the first bus? In like one shot, they're in like a busy city street, and there's like the exact same model of first bus that we used to have in the UK. Clearly, it's like been reappropriated or something like that.
God, that's so
and it's like got the same pink logo and everything. Like, and I was just like, oh my god.
Like the ones in Glasgow.
Yeah, the ones in Glasgow. I think they used to have them on the East Coast, but I was just like, oh my god, I can't get away from them.
First bus continues to haunt my nightmare.
I was with Lou, and he was like, well, they do have some pretty mad diversions.
That's actually really good.
That's how you end a segment of the podcast. And finally for this week, a bit of chat. I'm going to level with you. I was a bit at a loss of what we should do for a little end bit this week. And for some reason, in the group chat, what did I say? I said we could do something on... Let me just pull it up on here. This is great podcasting.
This is really useful for me because I still don't know how we arrived at this theme. It's really bemusing.
I think I suggested doing something on people's fetish for watching things on film, on celluloid. And then Peter said, why don't we do something on...
Yeah, so Jamie said maybe something discussing film exhibition on celluloid, given GFT have some 70mm screenings for their birthday and Filmhouse have their Jenkin on film season.
Wow, Jamie, that's a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Open to other ideas. That was his mistake. He left the door open. And then I said, could we do something on cinematography and the reason why people are drawn to that kind of filmy aesthetic and those kind of screenings? Might be broad enough to have some interesting chat, but narrow enough that we haven't already done it. And then we could chat about any and all film seasons we want to. This is partly inspired by the Netflix category, Great Cinematography, that was literally just a list of Wes Anderson films.
And then for clarity, no one replied.
No one replied for 2 days. Until Ellie said, are we definitely going for cinema? And then Jamie replied the day after that saying, yeah, I wasn't exactly sure of the plan. Peter, can you give us more of what you were thinking? And then I said, yes, basically a chat about cinematographies and the competing ways in which films can look good, which someone replied with a thumbs up.
So it all prepared.
And now we're here. Yes. So I suppose the things we want to talk about, right? Different, I think fetish is a good word to use in this context. Why do people like certain kinds of aesthetics when it comes to cinema and are very kind of disgusted and harrowed by other kinds of aesthetics? What is it about different types of visual style that they do and don't like? And then I've also got a side bet with myself on about how long it will take before someone mentions the name Roger Deakins. But Anahit's got her hand up, and because it's audio, I'm going to have to come to that. Anahit, what do you want?
I have an answer for you, which I very rarely do.
Fucking go.
I would say Tumblr and social media are a really, really big part of that sort of aesthetic, quote unquote aesthetic cinematography that we've all become quite accustomed to, or has become a shortcut for what we think means a film looks good. That ability to screenshot something and have it look good almost as a still.
What was the Twitter account called? It was like One Perfect Shot or something.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. It was One Perfect Shot. It's Tumblr. It's like the little kind of like GIFs, but like really, obviously, you can't see the whole film.
The kind of supercuts of like Wes Anderson films and Kubrick films, showing how symmetrical they are. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's really a thing. And I remember people talking about this in terms of writing in, I think particularly sitcoms, but also just generally TV shows, where they were like, writing has changed so that it can very easily become a meme. Like you can take a like moment from a sitcom and it can be screenshotted with the subtitles at the bottom, and it'll go viral on those out of context accounts or whatever. And they were like, yeah, it has shifted how we write for television because we're constantly trying to produce something that works out of context. And I really do think that the rise of social media, I really do sound 35 at the moment, but the rise of social media is a really big part of how we now envisage that sort of cinematography. And I say this as a Sofia Coppola fangirl, who I think is genuinely really good, and her cinematography and the quote-unquote aestheticness of it has a point and purpose and a politics. So, and people that don't agree with that are wrong. I really, really do believe this. But I think it led to a broader and worse school, some would say, of things that look just a bit pretty for no purpose, or we don't think about. I think Wes Anderson is also a really good example of this, in that Wes Anderson isn't just doing it for the aesthetic. There is a narrative reason for the way that he shoots the way that he shoots. But when people say, oh, his cinematography is really interesting, what they mean is it's pastel and symmetrical, and there's not much probing of it beyond that. So yeah, that's my explanation for your question.
I think that is actually a pretty strong start.
Thank you.
And
sometimes I do pay attention.
Straight in. I also think as well that like there is an element of the thing that you're saying about like you're sort of like one perfect shot Tumblr GIF thing. This is an example of like early or like as social media has continued to be a thing, you've basically got everything that was from before social media is extremely ripe for a gifting because people haven't done it yet. Whereas what we're now getting is sort of like second run stuff where people who are clearly influenced either by those films or actually by and this is time everyone duck because their shots headed towards Emerald Fennell. The kind of filmmaker who thinks that those sort of like that kind of mood board aesthetic is a substitute for good filmmaking. And it's like it's not being influenced by the original source material, it's being influenced by the idea of what people think the original source material is. It's being like, Barry Lyndon is very well lit, and you're like, yes, and like so that's what I'm going to do in my film. It's like, get the fuck back here. You son of a bitch.
I also think there is an element of you suffer for it. I personally think Barry Lyndon is like a little boring, and I think Marie Antoinette is a better version of it. But, and I am brave enough to say that, but there is something really interesting about the way that he like shot by candlelight and whatever. And it's the same thing with Terrence Malick. Terrence Malick has alienated himself from half of Hollywood because he makes people shoot for like half an hour every day when there's like golden light. And unless you're willing to suffer socially in that way, I think you just can't really talk about like, oh, lighting is really important to me.
I did see this clip of Werner Herzog giving a speech at some kind of event where he's saying like he doesn't like digital photography now because directors now have the opportunity to record thousands and thousands of hours and none of it's very good. And then everyone kind of laughs politely and he's like, no. Like he really doubles down. Like, no, this is a real thing. It's really bad. And I kind of like, I do agree with that. I think that like there's an arguable like impressive, like you say, Jamie, it's like mostly symmetry and like a sense of balance that comes into that follows that whole like Stanley Kubrick, every shot must be a masterpiece that's made its way into like very mainstream, very blockbuster films, which again makes a lot of sense because blockbuster films are the ones that are using the really fancy cameras. But there's just something that like I think when you remove the purpose from it makes it really, really like boring. I watched, I can't remember, it was like on Channel 4 on demand. It was one of the new Predator movies. I can't remember. It's the one where it's set in, like, it's an indigenous American tribe.
Was it Prey?
I think that's the one. Yeah. And it's like, this is a really interesting idea, a really cool idea for a Predator movie, and I did quite enjoy it. But then I was just watching it halfway through it, and I kind of realized people's, like, faces, whenever there's dialogue, are in focus and perfectly detailed and perfectly set up and in the right spot, and everything else is out of focus or blurred slightly. And it's like, this happens with all dialogue scenes and with all action scenes, where if it's just not important, if the filmmaker just doesn't want the audience to look at it, it's out of focus. That's like a new technological possibility that's actually made this kind of filmmaking like just so much more boring to watch. Like, I don't like that Star Wars is like absolutely incredible and you can get these crazy close-ups of the lightsaber and stuff like that. The old Star Wars was just like a big set and they just had like a wide shot of two dudes hitting each other with sticks, and you got to appreciate the kind of like choreography and the chemistry that was happening. But it is that sense that like you can zoom in and you can make something ultra 4K hyper detailed that almost takes away from the experience. And I think that's why the sort of cinematographers that I feel like, well, they've kind of up and come, but were considered up and coming. We talk about Sean Price Williams all the time, and it's like, what I like about him is that he's got this slightly transgressive, like, wandering camera, where I think it was like Between the Temples was the one that he did with Jason Schwartzman that we talked about in the pod, and it's like the shots are always kind of just wrong. It's always like the back of someone's head who's talking, and it's always just sort of like this, like it's like looking a little bit at the sky, and what's actually important is in the bottom right corner, and it kind of like makes you exercise your eyeballs in a way that like the beautiful cinematic cinematography that's now kind of been used by big production companies for internet virality is just kind of like not exciting.
Yeah, and then there's also the kind of like the digital, like the overtly digital, everything from the Wachowski Speed Racer to Inland Empire, which is like, this is supposed to look like the opposite of what you associate a film with being that slightly hazy, slightly kind of like people look like they're moving through a world that's made entirely of kind of like slightly soft fabric. And then the Wachowskis are like, what if everyone was doing donuts constantly? Or David Lynch is like, what if the camera was here? and on the end of one very long, very sugary stick. And that is like, I suppose that's the thing, that like if you're trying to take a shortcut, you take a shortcut that someone else has taken before. And if you're trying to do something weird and fuck people up, Jamie, you do something completely different. But anyway, you don't have to follow on from that. You can just say what you were going to say anyway.
Well, I mean, like, I guess I will follow on from that. Like, I guess the thing about cinematography, and I was thinking, that's why I thought it was a hard conversation to have, because, like, what is good cinematography? Because the whole point of, it's like saying what's good direction. It's like, I think some people think good cinematography is, nice images. Or, like, they'll say something like, you can put every frame, they think of it more as still images, like, you could put this on a wall, but that's actually not what cinematography is, because quite often cinematography is how the camera moves, like you say, how it's framed, how close it is to the face, how it's lit. So it's like really good cinematography actually enhances the story in some way, or it sort of is part of it creates the world like slightly different from reality. So, like, the thing about digital is, like, most films look bad now because, like, you can just shoot forever, or you can have, like, 5 cameras and you don't have to worry about lighting because you can fix the lighting in post. Like, Gladiator, the new Gladiator 2, like, Ridley Scott's using, like, 5 cameras or 6 cameras at all time. So that means he's not lit the scene, like, for a single camera, because the light's coming from everywhere. But that's why the film looks so muddy. Whereas if you go back to the original Gladiator, we use 1 camera, and that's a much more beautiful film because somebody's thought about where's the light going to hit, how's it going to make Russell Crowe look beautiful, how's it going to make the Colosseum look impressive, like, and things like that. So that's why I feel like if you go back to the older films, because you've got this kind of magician who's using celluloid, that you can't see what you're going to get. You have to kind of set it up and sort of hope for the best, and you light it in the most beautiful way possible, and you really think about what's in the frame. That's a completely different prospect to, I have this digital camera that can shoot for hours and will fix it in post if it looks crap. So, like, let's just shoot everything in shallow focus and leave the background out because we're going to move the camera around a lot. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Like, I guess it's like cinematography can be anything. That's the exciting thing about it. And lots of good cinematographers take totally different approaches. You've got your, like you say, your Malik, who everything is shot in golden hour and the camera's really fluid. Or you have somebody like Lynch, who makes everything look really ugly when he's shooting, like Laura Dern, like 2 inches away on this kind of really grubby camera. But they're both great looking films, they're just in different ways. So yeah, the idea of what is great cinematography is actually really hard to articulate, I think.
I'm going to bring up here one of my favorite cinematography fun facts, which is the cinematographer for Atonement, who I want to say Seamus Heaney, but it's not. Seamus McGarvey? Is that a person?
Yeah. Seamus McGarvey is a person. Seamus Heaney is a famed Irish poet,
He's a
I believe.
poet, yeah. I think it might be... It's Seamus something.
Seamus McGarvey.
I think. Seamus McGarvey. For the first third of Atonement, which is set in that kind of really hazy summer day, to get the impression of the heat across, he put a pair of very fine Christian Dior stockings over the camera lens. And then, like, it made all the light that filtered through and everything just look a little blurred. And it kind of goes back actually to what you were talking about in with Alchemy and Hoik, that idea of film as like a tactile thing that can, I don't know if Atonement was shot on film, I don't think it was, but like the idea of filming, I suppose, as a tactile thing that can be disrupted with different kinds of materials, I think is really, really cool.
A physical thing that can be physically manipulated.
Yeah. Who would have thought?
I heard a great term, which is haptic visuality, which is how something
that's sexy.
that you just look at but can make you feel something sensory.
Yeah.
And that's like, the way that you achieve that in film is through like texture and detail, which again, we're not necessarily doing a great job of. Like if you look at old Westerns, the fact that like John Wayne and all of the stars in it are like sweating really hard, and it's like because they are out in the desert, and it's also before they had
or they have the big lights,
but it's like at the same time, like it kind of connects you to that sense of environment that you just don't get when you're watching a blockbuster, because everyone looks perfect.
Yeah.
Can I say, this is not to do with cinematography, but it is to do with that when I was growing like a kid and was watching these films as part of my sexual coming of age, I really thought that like adult men were really sweaty and that was part of like the appeal.
Were you disappointed when you grew up?
Actually, no, not really.
This dry bunch of bitches.
Yeah. But I really, because they're all like, do you know what I mean? Like slightly moist.
That's what I liked about Queer, how much Daniel Craig was sweating in that.
Exactly.
In Central America.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a real callback. Anyway.
I think I don't know, it was on film because I remember seeing Joe Wright being interviewed, and the long shot can only be like, the really long shot in Dunkirk.
Oh, the Dunkirk one.
Had to be like 10 minutes because that's as long as the reel.
Ah.
What I remember that film and why the cinematography is great is like, first of all, everyone looks amazing, the light's incredible. I remember like most vividly the close-ups of cigarettes. Like there's so much scenes of people smoking and the like extreme close-up of like just the filter burning down. It's like
Yeah. Cigarettes in hands.
Yeah.
And he has that in Pride and Prejudice as well. That kind of less the cigarettes, but more people holding things and how their hands move around their face. Which is it's so good. What happened to him? He was great. Why did he make the Winston Churchill film?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
We'll have to find out on the next episode of the series. What a cliffhanger. Was that old chat was tied into it? So GFT, are they doing some 70mm stuff?
They are. They've got The Searchers is on right now. They're going to be showing what else? Oh, they're showing Interstellar on 70mm, which should be a good one. That's a good looking film. And then they have another one. The Anthony Minghella film.
English Patient?
An English Patient. They're showing that on 35mm.
Nice. And then the Filmhouse have all of Mark Jenkins' films, Bait, Ennis Main, and Rose of Nevada, on film. But I think what we've kind of come to in an unexpected conclusion is that the thing about good cinematography is generally tied to people who know how to make films putting a bit of effort into it.
That will do.
Probably true.
And a twist ending that no one saw coming. And having disparaged large parts of the film community, it's time for me to sign up.
And not a single person mentioned Roger Deakins.
Hey, there he is, my guy. Right, thank you very much, Jamie.
Cheers, Peter.
Thanks for resolving that as well, because that could have been up in the air for a long time. I feel like one of those Taskmaster challenges where someone technically takes like 6 days to do it. Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you.
And thank you, Anahi.
Thank you.
This has been The Cindy Skinny. If you've liked it, please tell somebody. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Bye.